the Ukraine war, Senate confirmations, and yes, more tariffs. This is Trump this week, and today we are going to discuss. Yet again, another week of the Trump 2.0 administration that has, a roller coaster as he got us accustomed since, took office less than a month ago. And today we are going to have yet again another edition of Trump This Week with the five most, standout issues and events deriving from the Trump 2.0 administration. So let's start. The biggest one, the number one, is the war on Ukraine that maybe we are on the beginning of the end of this war. That, of course, that those are excellent news, and regardless of who you are rooting for, and of course I'm rooting for pro peace, pro humanity, and just ending this goddamn war once for all. Now, this event happens since this week. Donald Trump himself announced that he had a long discussion with Vladimir Putin and saying Trump himself that Putin wants to end the war as well. Those are Trump's words about Putin's wars. And also, of course, the Ukrainian president, Zelensky, he also wants to end the war, but, maybe on different terms. Okay, let's give you just a little Reader's Digest on how the war is faring right now. We are on this next week, we are about to reach the third anniversary of the war, and on the past, let's say, 2 years, Russia and Ukraine has stagnated on a war of attrition, and Russia has occupied around 20% of Ukrainian soil. But just a few months ago, Ukraine was able to take a small portion of Russian soil in the region of Kursk. Now, the main issue, the demands of Putin in order to end the war is first, of course, basically seize this occupied territory from Ukrainian soil. Ukraine has to give back the Russian territory that they occupy of their own, and no NATO membership, and also no European Union membership as well. Also, there are some issues regarding how the Ukrainian military will be established after the war, according to Russia. Apparently, there is like a demand of Ukraine only can have up to 50,000 troops on service, on duty, and also the equipment that they will have, and so on. Also, there are talks about having a buffer zone that will be this particular 20% of Ukrainian territory seized by Russia, occupied by Russia right now. That will be something similar to the DMC in North and South Korea. So let's see how that happens. Recently, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, was in Europe talking about the initial plan, basically saying Russia's demands for such plan. And other thing happening about this particular plan is that Europe is not as involved regarding the negotiations. So most of the European authorities are a little bit upset, let's say, not so little, regarding this particular negotiation, because it's basically straightforward between the US and Russia. So right now we are on a back and forth from each country. Ukraine wants some concessions as well. They want some demands in order to end the war. Russia also throwing a couple of extra details in order to end the war as well. Europe saying things of their own, but Trump wants to end the war once for all. Hope that happens and happens soon. However, the conflict, the military conflict, is still going on. For instance, Chernobyl was attacked by Russia apparently just yesterday, and I haven't even read about it. Just got the news just before recording this. So let's see. Hopefully, the war will end soon. The second thing this week regarding Trump is actually his cabinet that hasn't been completely assembled because they were pending on the Congress confirmation and the Senate hearings. So this week we had two heavyweights on Trump's cabinet already appointed by Trump, but confirmed this week by the Senate. One is, of course, the notorious Robert Kennedy Jr., and as the health secretary, and also Tulsi Gabbard, that she was confirmed as the director of the CNI, the Committee of National Intelligence. So it was tough that they will get approved, get the over 50 of the Senate voting in favor of such individuals. Apparently, remember that the Republicans, Trump's party, has 53 senators from 100 senators, and one of those is actually it was the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, Mitch McConnell. He voted against both appointments, but still the rest of the Republicans voted in favor, and now we have both confirmations. There are a couple of controversies on these particular individuals. RFK Jr., of course, we have the issue that he is very controversial, that is going to attack, the pharmaceuticals and how the food is made in the US, the FDA agency. So apparently he's planning to create a revolution both on the healthcare and the pharmaceuticals, but also on the food industry in the US that, let's say, is not the healthiest in the world. And the other issue is with Tulsi Gabbard, that it was a controversial appointment because Tulsi first, she was a Democrat and recently passed to be a Republican. The other thing is that Tulsi, she has spoken in favor on several, let's say, not so democratic leaders like Putin, like Bashar al-Assad, that of course he's not in business anymore, and also he has criticized Turkey. So a couple of controversial things that she has said. But anyway, she is now running the intelligence of the United States. Number three, and this is a constant on the Trump 2.0 administration, is tariffs. Yes, we have more tariffs to announce this week. First, we have the new 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum that arrives to the United States. The caveat is that this time these tariffs are not targeted to specific countries. These tariffs are worldwide and they have no discrimination. So each country that exports steel and aluminum to the United States will suffer equally such tariffs. Canada and Mexico actually will have a higher tariffs, apparently. I haven't confirmed it yet. And the other set of tariffs is, and I think it's very fair, that Trump wants to match the tariffs that other countries have on US exports. Number four is the prisoners, the US prisoners that have been released this week. First, we have the case of this gentleman that was released from Russia. Apparently, it was a deal cut between Trump and Putin about exchanging this particular prisoner. Let me put here his name. In exchange for a Russian money launderer, something like that. Also, three U.S. citizens were released from Belarus. Belarus is a close ally of Russia. One of them is a US citizen, and I believe the other two are US residents, so still a big win from the Trump administration. And well, yeah, great on this particular regard. Trump is actually moving greatly regarding getting back the U.S. prisoners that are being captured abroad. So it's a great, let's say, a very expedite process that he had set in motion. He released prisoners from the Gaza Strip, some U.S. prisoners, and also we remember the Rick Grenell thing on Venezuela. And now we have this particular issue with this prisoner swap. And number 5, we had the feud with the Associated Press. On this week, apparently it was an issue with the AP journalists that they are covering on the White House, and they are the correspondents of the AP agency. And apparently they don't want to use the term Gulf of America. Remember that Trump signed an executive order of renaming the Gulf of Mexico, now Gulf of America. Apparently that's the legal name right now. And it is what it is, like it or hate it. Well, anyways, the Associated Press said that they are not using the Gulf of America, they're using the Gulf of Mexico. And that brought some issues, some frictions with the U.S. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, that she said that covering the presidency, covering the White House is a privilege, so they won't be allowed to enter to the Oval Office and take pictures and do interviews with Donald Trump. And also they won't be allowed to travel on the Air Force One. Another just quick announcements on this regard on Trump this week. We also have the Vice President today in Munich, J.D. Vance, talking about Europe, how Europe has to be more resilient and not so dependent on the United States regarding their national security. I'm talking, the continental security on this regard. And the people on Europe, the main leaders were not pleased. Also, Vance called out first the issue with the tech companies, the US tech companies, that they have to comply with several regulations in Europe that are hindering growth of course, on the European continent, and also some issues with the freedom of speech and things like that. So the Europeans are not very happy on that regard. And also, we had late on this week, the Senate hearing of the new commander of the Southern Command, or SOUTHCOM, talking about the enemies of the United States having significant presence in Latin America, and apparently the new commander of the Southern Command wants to do something about it. So that is all that we got for this week on Trump this week. Let's see what happens on the next week. A lot of things are cooking up, so we don't even have the full cabinet of Trump's right now, of Trump's appointees. And a bunch of issues are going to happen, Israel, Ukraine, Europe, Latin America, and of course, some domestic affairs. So let's see how Trump is going to perform the next week and how that will affect worldwide issues. Thank you for watching Continental Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media, and if you want to work with us, continentalinsider.com. Thanks again, and have a nice day.